Welcome to the Mum Dem podcast.
By the Mum Dem?
For the Mum Dem.
But.
Welcome to the pilot of the Mum Dem podcast. Today we're talking all things birth stories.
Mm-hmm. So let's start with yours, Kamilah.
Oh, okay.
What happened? How did you join the Mum Dem?
Okay, so we're talking about 8 or 9 years ago. So my oldest she's almost 8 years old now. So I was about 24 years old when I fell pregnant. A bit of context. I have always wanted to be a mum. Like, being a mum is something that I've just held so close to my heart. I've always wanted to just be a mum, enjoy motherhood. I've always looked up to my mum, my grandma, my sister who was a mum before me. And it's just something I've always really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So when I fell pregnant, I know at 24, some people might have been a bit frightened or a bit, worried about what's to come. But I felt ready. I was like, this is my calling.
The opposite of me.
You're like, I'm ready for this.
I was ready. I was so ready. I was like, this is what I want to do. Yeah. So I was so ready that I thought I'm going to enjoy every single part of this. I'm going to enjoy the pregnancy. I'm going to enjoy the birth. So I did so much preparation. Like, I was at every class. I did pregnancy yoga. I did a bit of hypnobirthing. I did meditation. I practiced my breathing techniques. I had my birth. I was one of those people that had their birthing plan organised from about 20 weeks. I was like,
wow.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted a water birth. I knew I wanted it to be natural, as they call it. I didn't want any pain relief or anything like that. And I was ready. I thought I was ready. So, it's gonna
singing in the back.
Fourth member of the show.
Yes.
Cutest member. Maybe he wants to come join us.
Yeah. Come join us, honey.
He's like, this is some good tea.
Okay.
I need a front side view. So, you thought you were ready?
I thought I was ready. So, fast forward, pregnant. Going through the motions week by week, little apps that you've got where you track how big the baby is now and all of that. Tracking that. Size of a strawberry. And everybody's like, yep, getting bigger and bigger. I thought I was ready. And was just going on and on week by week. And it was great. Like, I thought I had everything figured out. Due date comes and I decide the baby's not here yet. What am I going to do? So I went to the farm with my friend.
As you do
on your due date.
Did I hear that correctly? You went to a farm
on your due date
with animals and tractors. Okay.
With animals and tractors, we went to the farm as you do. Yeah. We got to this farm, and when I tell you the hills at this farm,
you're really trying to get that baby out.
That was enough.
What vehicle were you in?
So we drove in the car to the farm.
Not in the tractor.
Not in the tractor.
Not in a digger.
And then we're walking around the farm, and I could feel like these tightenings just coming on thick and fast. And I was like, oh my God. I said to my friend, I think I'm in labour. Like, I really do.
On the farm?
On the farm.
Where's the manger?
I was like, I think I'm in labour.
Wow.
So I said, I'm going to go back to the car because I think it was a little event that we were at. So she had her daughter there, my goddaughter. So she wanted to kind of finish that off. So I said, I'll wait in the car. It's not urgent. I'll wait in the car. Went back to the car. A little bit later, she comes back and we start driving home. Going over the humps, I can feel these contractions coming on a lot stronger. And I'm like, yeah, but... For me, I'm excited. I'm like, I'm in labour. Like, I'm ready. I was so excited. And I started to practice the techniques that I had been learning. I started to breathe. And I was like, yes, we're almost there. Got home. My husband was at home. I spoke to him, told him what was going on. And we started to time them. Called the hospital. And the hospital said, they tell you when it's 5 minutes apart, lasts in 30 seconds or something like that. So we waited. I had my stopwatch. I was timing them. I was, to the point I was like, I remember my phone in the notes. Must have been like 100 different contractions a time. The amount of time that they were lasting, I was so detailed with it. And then I thought, let me have a little nap, laid down, had a bit of a nap. When I woke up, they were coming so strong. I stood up and my waters broke. It literally I've never felt
this
anything
is like a
that.
TV birth.
It's literally
This is the birth that every midwife is like, it's not really like that, but it is.
So I thought. So it all came out and I was like, okay. I wanted to stick it out a bit longer. My husband was like, no, we're going to the hospital now. Jumped in the car. He's on the phone to the midwife. Her waters are broke. We need to come in. So drive into hospital, get to the hospital, and we go into the like assessment room. So when we get in there, the midwife's like, you're doing really well. She's like, wow, you're breathing so well. Amazing. Like, I'm just going to let you get on with it. I'm not going to offer you any meds. Like, you are doing so well. So I sat there on my ball, breathing. They come in and they say, let's do an observation. So obviously we know what an observation entails. She did the internal and she was like, wow, 6 centimeters dilated and you're this calm. You're a pro at this. And then I hear, oh.
Not the sound you want to hear.
I said, what does O mean? Still haven't heard anything. She gets up, she gets on the phone. I need some help down here. My husband's like, what does O mean? She's like, I just want a second opinion first, but I don't think I can feel a head. So what can you feel? Like, what can you feel? Oh, no. So the other lady comes in. She has a feel, and she's like, we can feel a bum. And I'm like, okay. These times, I'm young. I haven't done much research. I don't know. See, I'd prepared in having I prepared in delivering a baby. I prepared to deal with the pain. I prepared to deal with the mental stuff that comes with it, the emotions. I prepared all of that, but I hadn't thought about if anything deviates from the plan.
Yeah.
So when she said that, I thought, okay, so what does that mean? I literally said to her, what does that mean? Okay, you can feel a bum. Still a baby.
Yeah.
She said, your baby's breech. I said, okay, what does that mean? She was like, we need to... She started to scare me about, you know, if the baby's skin touches the oxygen, the baby might start breathing and all of this stuff. And I just got really, really panicked.
Of course, yeah.
And within minutes, people were in the room, sign this, put me onto a bed, give me injections. You know, I literally had no say in the matter. I just signed this paper, and before I knew it, I was off in this other room. And suddenly, everything just changed. My calm demeanour that I had before, my breathing, everything went out the window. I was suddenly just panicked.
Yeah.
I just lost all sense of control. I was crying. You know, my family had come to see me, and I was just so distraught. It just completely threw me. I had prepared for this water birth with, you know, no pain medication, with I had candles, like the fake candles that you can get. I had my music. I had so much prepared for this moment, and it was just all crumbling before me, and I just did not know what to do. And I ended up having an emergency C-section. Again, that experience, I panicked through the experience, because when I had to have a spinal injection, and the feeling that came over me, I was resisting it, so it kind of freaked me out a bit, and it was just a bit of a mess, let's say. But yeah, fast forward, you know, the surgery, we know how a C-section happens. If you don't, you can check it out on YouTube. It is a major surgery, but after the surgery, baby's there. I was happy, but I couldn't help feeling like a failure, like I hadn't really delivered my baby. Like I had, you know, I'd taken the easy route, and there were comments, you know, after that, well, at least you didn't have to, you know, push the baby out, kind of thing. Wow. So yeah, it was a lot, but like as I said before, I've got 3 children. I feel like after that, I was prepared to not be prepared, to know that you can plan. The thing I took from that is you can plan your emotional state, you can plan how you deal with things, your calmness, your mindfulness, but just be prepared to adapt that to any situation, because it just completely threw me. And I had to heal from that quite a while afterwards. But yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, you did it, Mama.
Thanks for sharing that story.
Thank you for listening. No, it's not, but thanks for listening.
And there's so much judgment around how you give birth, however you give birth. Whether you have the natural birth, it's, why did you do that? Do you think you're better than other people?
Yeah.
If you have to have surgery, you've had major abdominal surgery, and people are like, easy way out. What is easy about a major abdominal surgery?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what I've come to realise after doing a lot of research, doing a lot of healing, that there is no easy way. You've birthed a baby into this world, regardless of however you do it, you've still delivered a baby. That's a massive achievement.
Yeah, and it's like 6 weeks to heal from a C-section.
It is, and that's just the beginning stage.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. The emotional trauma, like it was. I did go on to have 2 more C-sections, but I went into that with a different mindset altogether.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a proud C-section mama now.
Oh yeah,
like, proud of it. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing your story.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I heard someone say about C-sections that when people say, oh, it's the easy way out, you don't have the pain, they said it's just a choice of whether you deal with the pain at the birth or you deal with it later. It's there.
It's so
we
true.
suffer to bring these babies into the world.
Pain either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you've done both, so
both.
you would know.
There's pain both ways. But yeah, that's great.
Who's next? I'm excited.
Rachel, you want to go next?
Oh, okay, by force. We'll probably have an ad-libs from Amma because she was there for all 4 of my births.
All 4
Well,
babies.
kind of.
Yeah,
The
I was
first
there.
one was interesting.
Yeah, but let's go. Let's hear it.
It's like the unofficial doula. Lawyer by day, doula by night.
Doula by night.
Okay, so with my first, I was like the opposite of you. I was terrified. She was a surprise blessing, honeymoon baby, and I literally just got married, and then it was like, oh, I've picked up some kind of tropical disease. I went to Tobago on holiday, and I remember going to church, and I was like, oh, I'm so sick. I'm nauseous. I can't eat anything. I keep vomiting. And every single married woman I spoke to was like, oh, are you pregnant? I was like, no, I'm not pregnant. What are you talking about? Pregnancy? Like, I am ill. I'm unwell. And I got to the point where the only reason I did a pregnancy test was so that people would actually give me some empathy and stop saying I was pregnant. Because I was like, I am suffering. Pregnancy is meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyable. I wake up sick. I go to bed sick. I can barely eat. I am nauseous. And what I didn't know at the time was that I am one of the unlucky women who gets HG. How do you actually pronounce it? I can't say it. Hyperemesis? The thing that Princess Kate had. That's what everyone knows. It's like, oh yeah, Princess Kate, she was in hospital on a drip. I was in hospital on a drip every single pregnancy. But I didn't know that at the time. So I'm like, I've got a tropical disease. Why is everyone saying I'm pregnant? Find out I'm pregnant. But I had a coil. So I'm like, sorry, what? And if you meet my daughter, I absolutely love her. Like, best surprise blessing ever. And I didn't know I was ready to be a mum at the time. I thought I wasn't, but I absolutely was. I would not change anything. If you meet her, though, her personality matches the conditions of conception, because she absolutely would be like, yeah, I'm going to be born now, mummy. And just like,
you can't stop me.
Eat the coil, because it was never found. We don't know what happened to it. It just disappeared.
Eat the coil.
It just disappeared.
Has anyone ever heard of a coil?
No.
I had never heard of this.
Because apparently it's not common, but like 1 in 1,000 times the coil doesn't work, right? Which is... But there's a lot of births, right? But babies are then born holding the coil.
Yeah,
like every midwife I spoke to was like, oh yeah, I delivered a baby that was holding the coil. So I was expecting this baby to emerge holding the coil. She did not. That, in fact, the way they even told me was I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, it says I'm pregnant. It's going to be an ectopic pregnancy. And it was such a surreal night because I don't know why this happened. We watched, I forgot the name of the film. What's that film called with Johnny Depp? But it's not Edward Scissorhands. But he's like a demon butcher man.
Demon butcher man?
No, he's eating people. He's putting people into the blender and eating them. So I've ruined the plot.
Oh my gosh.
Sweeney Todd. Okay, so we were watching Sweeney Todd because we didn't know. I like Edward Scissorhands. I'm like, it's a good film. So me and my husband, I'm like, okay, we'll do the test. We'll watch a film. We don't have kids. We're watching Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
So we're watching Sweeney Todd, which if you've seen it, have you guys seen it?
No.
It's so intense. And they're eating people. Is what I'm saying.
I know you're eating
They
people.
eat
I don't
people.
particularly
It's
know
crazy. He's like a barber, but he starts killing people and putting them into pies that his lady friend makes.
Like, I've heard of these things. I didn't know there was a
Bellatrix.
movie about it. Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's a musical as well. Which
What? That makes it weirder.
You need to watch it. Anyway,
where they're eating
so
people.
imagine how surreal it is that I'm watching it. I go pee on my stick. I come back. I go look at the stick. I'm like, oh! My husband is like, what's going on? Well, so he wanted kids straight away, so he's silently gassed. But he's also like,
I think he was
Rachel
secretly
isn't ready.
praying for this.
Do you know what I mean? Like him and the baby, they conspired.
Yeah.
They ate the coil between them. So anyway, so Sweeney Todd is just playing. We're in bed on the laptop having this conversation, and then I'm googling and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a high risk of ectopic pregnancy. So then I'm freaking out. So we're like, what do we do? It's like the middle of the night, we're watching Sweeney Todd, we're crying and praying for this baby that like we didn't even know was there. So we have an emergency appointment the next day. He doesn't go to work, which, if you know my husband, is a very, very big deal because he's a teacher and he was a senior leader at the time. So it was like him not going to work. So we get this emergency appointment to check out what's happening and see if it's an ectopic pregnancy. And they do the scan, not the cute little ultrasound way because it's early. This is like 7 weeks. So they go inside.
Yep.
which is an interesting experience. And they're scanning around in there. And the sonographer says, oh, we can't find the coil. You'll have to have an x-ray after delivery. And that is how I was told I was pregnant. And she turns the screen round and there's this little like seahorse looking creature. Yeah. Because it was early. It was like 7 weeks. She looked like a seahorse. So that's how I found out I was pregnant.
Can I just say, I remember you telling me and being like, well, there's no coil there, but there's a bit, because I thought she was going in because of a coil like mishap. Yeah. And so she goes, there's no coil there, but there's a baby there. And I was like, what? So strange.
Yeah, and my siblings said I said some similar nonsense to them. They're like, why do you soft launch your children in such bizarre ways? I don't know, it's fun. You only get to
Memorable.
do it a few times. Right? Exactly. So anyway, so it was a difficult pregnancy. So I think a lot of people know about postnatal depression. I had perinatal depression. So I was low, I was down, I was like, how am I going to look after this child? I'm not ready, I'm too young. And I just started a new job as well, and I was vomiting all over the place. I was really, really sick. It was awful. Tried to get support through like forums. I'm not going to name the forums. But forums for mums can be quite toxic, right? And I ended up like creating like a fake account on one of these forums, which I've never done before because I always thought fake accounts are for people who are like being creeps and like bullying people on the internet. But I was just like, I want to talk about this stuff, but I don't want it attached to me or out in the public. So I set up my fake name and I joined this support group for women with HG. And it was really, really sad because all the women wanted the babies, but one by one they had abortions, not because they wanted them, but because they were like, I cannot eat. One of them was like, I can't look after my older child. One of them was like, I just have no support. I'm just lying in bed. I'm hungry. I'm sick. I'm vomiting. I'm sitting in my own vomit and I have no help. And I definitely experienced a lot of people saying like well-meaning people, like, you're not sick, you're pregnant, it will pass. And it didn't pass. It was awful, the whole I hated pregnancy. And I thought being pregnant would be fun. Like, I was looking forward to it. I was like, you get the glow, you eat what you want. I was hungry all the time, but I was always hungry for something that I didn't have. So I don't like salt and vinegar crisps. I'm a cheese and onion girly. And I was just craving salt and vinegar crisps. I couldn't eat anything but salt and vinegar crisp. I am a celiac. I can't eat gluten. Vinegar, it's usually malt vinegar. It usually has gluten. So I remember one night, like 1 a.m, Jack goes out trying to find me salt and vinegar crisps. He drives around for an hour, finds the like Skipjack's salt and vinegar, a gluten-free. It was like the only one at the time. And he buys like a crate and he comes back like, I've gotten my pregnant wife what she wants. And I start crying and I'm like, I don't want them anymore. And I was so upset. I was like, you took too long.
That is a real pregnancy thing for real, isn't it? You want it like desperately.
You need it now.
An hour later, I need it.
It's not good enough. It's not good enough.
And there was a point where I was craving like, this is really weird. Do you remember like Sam's chicken 2 for 2s back in the day? I eat so healthy now, right? But I was a Sam's chicken girl when I was a teenager, and I was craving like a mini fillet burger or like a KFC burger. Yeah. Again, I'm a celiac. I don't eat these things, and I eat pretty healthy. So Jack goes out and he goes and gets like breaded like chicken fillets. He goes and finds gluten-free brioche buns. He goes and gets like the mayo, like brings everything together and like compiles it. And that one I could eat it. That was fine. But then after that, then I just couldn't eat meat. I couldn't have meat in the house. I couldn't the smell of it. It was a lot. But anyway, so it was a difficult pregnancy. But then it came to the due date. And on the morning of the due date, I was young and I was not prepared. I didn't know. Like, I'd read a hypnobirthing. I didn't go to any classes. I was like, it's a waste of money. Didn't know anything. Or maybe I went to like the free class that was on. I heard about these NCT groups. I was like, how much money? And I just thought, no, it's not for me. It's okay, I'll be fine. My mother-in-law was like, how are you going to feed the baby? I was like, with a bowl. Isn't that how you feed babies? And she gave me a book, Breast is Best. And I read it. I was like, okay, I get it. I love my mother-in-law. I'm like, your grandchild will get breast milk, don't worry. So I focused on that element and I thought about feeding and everything. Didn't think too much about the birth. I read a hypnobirthing book that someone gave me. It made me feel better. But I was like, it will be fine. My big concern, because I was delulu, I don't know what was wrong with past Rachel, was work, because I was running a startup at the time. So on my due date, I'm sat, and I was scared of induction. I didn't want to be induced. Yeah. So my due date came, I was sat on a bouncing ball in my office at home, bouncing and sending emails. I was getting contractions and I was bouncing and sending emails.
Wow.
Because I was mad, right? That it was burnout waiting to happen. And I was so concerned about the business and what would happen and feeling bad about leaving like the team to run things without me. And that was my big concern, right? It was mad.
Can I just say, most people would go on maternity leave, but you went right up until your due date.
I was
sending emails.
Not just due date. I was in labour. I was in early labour. I was getting contractions. I was like, I had the TENS machine on my back. I was on the bouncy ball. I was emailing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I told Emma, I think it's happening. And then my husband goes to leave for work. I'm like, it could be slow. I've read about this. It'll be fine. And as I'm saying bye to him, I feel a little gush. And I'm like, ooh. But it wasn't really a gush, actually. It was more of a trickle. And I was confused. I was like, did I pee myself? Like, what is going on? And he's like, oh, your water's broke. Cool, we're going to the hospital. So we go to the hospital on the morning of my due date. We get there. They're like, oh, yeah, your waters have broken. But you're only like 2 centimetres. So go home, chill, relax, come back later. So we do that. And I think my husband, he dropped me home. He went to work, but then he ended up coming home. So we're just chilling at home. I'm still emailing.
God, Rachel.
Still emailing, still putting together documents.
To work.
It was wrong. Current Rachel would not do this.
Yeah.
I did not do that with the next with the second one. Actually, do you remember?
I know what you did like 2 days before your due date.
Oh, God.
I did this big pitch in front of like thousands of people. That was quite funny. But it wasn't. That was my hospital due date.
Yeah.
I tracked my periods. I knew it wasn't my real due date. And actually, I've been accurate about the due dates. So I knew he was actually coming 2 days later. So, and I mean,
that's still a bit crazy.
It was crazy.
That's still a bit crazy.
Yeah, and then the day before I was in bed and Amma came over to make sure I stopped working, but I was closing an investment round, so I was emailing like the lawyers, the investors. I was like firming things up, and then on the actual day I was like, okay, he's gonna be born today. Today I chill. Yeah. Also crazy, but it's like I got progressively less crazy as the babies came. Yeah. So anyway, I have. My waters have broken. I didn't know at the time. It was just the hind waters.
Yeah.
And that's why there wasn't that much and the full waters hadn't broken. And I basically laboured at home for a long time. Because remember, my waters broke in the morning and labour started. By the evening, I think we went to the hospital again. I'm like, it really hurts now. I'm like 3 centimetres. So they sent me home. And then Amma came over. He lived on the other side of London at the time. And we go to the hospital again and they're like, go home. And we're like, look, it's quite a long journey. Can we just stay? They're like, maybe. We went home again and we come back for, I can't remember, was it like the 4th time? I can't even remember. And this time they're like, okay, you're 4 centimetres, so you can go in the pool. Sometimes. But we don't, like, do you want drugs? And I'd read about the drugs and I was scared. I was like, oh, I don't want my baby to be drowsy. I don't want the side effects. I was terrified of an epidural, didn't want any of it. I was like, I'll do the water. Water's going to be effective. I get in the water. Obviously, I have to take off the TENS machine. The water is effective, but it's so effective and so relaxing that my contractions start.
It slows it right down. They don't tell you that.
They don't tell you that. So I got in too early. So I was 4 centimetres after like 5 hours. I'm like 5 centimetres. And then they're like, oh, your waters broke, didn't they? That wasn't on your notes. There's a risk of infection. Because at this point, it's coming up to like, I don't know, I'd like laboured through the night. It's like the next day. It's like, it's been 24 hours and my waters broken. They're like, we need to speed this up. Do you want a hormone drip? I don't want a hormone drip, but they're saying my baby could die, so I take the hormone drip. Then they're like, oh, we should do some antibiotics just in case. So I'm attached to all these wires and cables, and I'm like, oh, my natural birth is going away. And it's freaking me out. I'm getting very stressed. Very long story short, because literally, my waters broke. 36 hours later, the baby was born. 36 hours. Like, do you know how long that is? And remember, instead of like eating, relaxing, resting, I was on a bouncy ball trying to prevent induction, pushing myself because I didn't want to sweep. I had like 4 sweeps because it was taking so long. And I wasn't eating, I wasn't resting. So I didn't have the stamina. I was exhausted. I've been vomiting for like 9 months. I had nothing left to give. So it got to the point where they're like, look, you don't have to do this. you've tried your hardest, you've laboured for hours, you are exhausted. They put me on a drip for hydration as well, because I think I was like vomiting, I couldn't even keep the water down. It was a blur. Like, I remember my other 3 births better. This one, I know Amma was there, I know Jack was there, I know they were kind of taking turns.
In and out of the hospital.
In and
constantly.
out. And then they're like, look, it's been, at this point, like 34 hours.
Yeah.
We think you need a section. And I was relieved. And remember, I really didn't want a C-section, but I was like, okay, cool, because I can't do this anymore. I'm in so much pain. And they're telling me, I think at this point, I was like 8 centimetres. I was like, how can it get worse than this? Because I am dying. Like, how has the human race survived? Because this is the worst thing ever. Yeah. And what I didn't know at the time is because I was so scared, I was so fearful, it makes all your muscles contract. Yeah. So less blood is getting to your uterus, your contractions aren't as effective. Because with my son, it was 7 hours, which is still long, but it was more peaceful. The water birth went better. With my babies, it was 5 hours? Yeah. 4 till the first, another hour till the second. But in any case, they said it's going to be a C-section. But then there was another lady and her baby was in distress. And I was in the birthing centre. So they had to like transfer me. So they push me, they're rushing me through. We get gowned up. Everyone's got a gown, even my husband. I signed the paperwork. I have the epidural. It doesn't work. Oh. It worked on half my body. And not the other half. So they had to top up the epidural. And to this day, I have sciatica, and I'm so sure it was the epidural. I've read about this. A similar thing happened with, I had a family member who had to have surgery, and they needed an epidural for the surgery, and it only worked on half their body as well.
Really?
It's very interesting. So I have the epidural. I'm relaxed. They go to do the other woman's C-section. I'm like, cool, I'm going to have my baby soon. This is fine. And then they come back. And they're like, oh. I'm like, oh.
The O.
Husband's like, oh. No one wants to hear oh.
We all know this O. They need training on this.
They do. Why do they do it?
Training on the O. And then like a doctor sticks their head round to confirm what the midwife's seen. And they're like, okay, you're crowning. You have to push. Like, so I was in the birth centre. You told me I can't push. You told me I need a C-section. I did the paperwork. I've had the epidural. Now I have to push. They're like, yeah, because you had the epidural, you won't be able to feel it properly. You'll feel pressure. So we're going to need to use forceps, which was my other big fear. Because I have a law degree, right? And when you do, I did a medical law module. When you do medical law, a lot of it is negligence around births. And it's forceps and Von-Teese deliveries and horrible, unspeakable things with babies. And I'm like, no, like scared that something's going to happen to my poor little baby. But obviously at this point, like, what else can you... The head is coming out. They can't cut me because the baby's not in the uterus. She's fully ready. And it was probably, I was relaxed, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why the contractions started working, because I'm chilling. I'm like, cool. Oxytocin's flowing. My husband's holding my hand. I'm like, oh, he's a good man. I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. Baby's coming out. So I don't know how long it took, but a few pushes... No, it was a lot of pushes. It was a while. But she came out and she was screaming and she was covered in blood and her hair was dark jet black. And I was like, oh, I love this little gremlin looking alien creature. And that was that. So all my anxiety, the whole pregnancy, am I going to bond with her? Am I going to be a good mum? Like immediately it was like, oh, I want to feed her. Yeah. Like the oxytocin was just flowing. So... That was my birth story. It was
Whilst
nuts.
I sat there in the waiting room, like waiting, like
thinking I'm having a C-section.
Thinking she's having a C-section. Messaging our friends like, I don't know what's going on. They said she's going to have a C-section. Why is it taking so long?
And everyone was messaging me afterwards, like, oh, how are your scars?
I forgot to update everyone that she didn't have a C-section. I was like, they're worrying about the C-section.
And they look so confused because I'm like, no, it was an actual delivery. Yeah, they're like, oh, like, is Rachel? Did she? They're like, did the drugs get to her? She forgot. Yeah, it was crazy.
No. Oh,
so that was my birth.
See, that's 2 different births. It's crazy how you know you expect birth to just be birth, like one way you get this baby out, but it's so different for every woman
and every pregnancy.
Every pregnancy is different. Every birth is different. Yeah. But we are power women.
Yeah, and I love hearing about other women's birth stories.
I love it too.
It empowers me. Yeah, I love it.
And what you said about feeling like a failure is crazy, because even if you're like, I know a lot of stuff that's said is nonsense, and I don't subscribe to it. I'm not judging other mums. We internalize so much. So I felt like a failure because I had an epidural.
Yeah.
I felt like, oh, like I delivered, but I didn't really deliver. And actually, it was a similar thing. Like, they had to use forceps. They had to do a cut, and I also tore. So there was a lot of, reconstruction down there. And that hurt for a while, you know? And it was different to the other births where like it was a bit more straightforward and I pushed through and you deal with the surges and you know, grind through the pain and you get the baby out. But it's a bit less sore and painful. Like I couldn't walk properly after the almost C-section, you know. And yet I was beating myself up and saying like, "Oh, it didn't really count." It absolutely did count.
Yeah, it's because we're
your
told
birth
that you have
absolutely
to get
did
a baby
count.
out one way, and then when you don't do it that way, or you don't do it the way that you thought you were going to do it because of what you have been taught in society, then you beat yourself up. But girls, we got babies out of us.
Do you know
we grew humans.
That's the thing. And even when you were saying about your 36 hours, so my second two babies, they were 52 and 54-hour labours. Like,
sorry, how many days is that?
Who knows? And it was the same sort of thing, like not sleeping.
We're not mathematics.
We need to like get some stats
here.
I know.
Like, we've got 9 babies, 3,000 hours of labour.
Yeah, literally, that is crazy.
I love that. We need to do that. No, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot, and we've done it. But Emma,
here we are.
Your birth story.
Well, similar to you, I was very, very excited to become a mama.
You have been since you were a teenager.
Literally, since I was a teen, I was always the one with the babies. I just always wanted to be around babies. Became an aunt at like 20 or something like that. And well, to my brother's child, but I had lots of nieces and little cousins and babies. Just babies. I love babies, which is why, you know, I want to be a doula. That's why I was like, when Rachel's giving birth, I'm like, I'm your birth partner. Do not let anyone else be there.
You were such a good birth partner.
I'd read books at one of my cousins had a baby at 18, so I was 20, and I had read all the books. I read books with her. I would like literally watch videos. I'd watch birth stories. One Born Every Minute was like my background.
Whereas I hadn't seen a birth at all until after I delivered, because I was like, it will scare me.
Yeah, so I'd looked at a birth, but I hadn't looked at a C-section because obviously I assumed I was having a birth.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing, that even with everything that I've watched, most of the things are like vaginal births. You barely see C-section stories. But so when I found out I was pregnant, I was over the moon. I was excited. We'd wanted this. I'd been married a few years and got to enjoy marriage, and then suddenly, you know, I'm like, yeah, ready for baby, let's go. To be honest, my pregnancy was pretty calm. I swelled up a lot. My beautiful daughter sucked my beauty, as they say.
You were still cute.
When I look at the pictures, I'm like, oh.
What's really funny is when I was pregnant, Amma would call me Fatty every day. She'd be like, how you doing, Fatty? And it was funny. And then I tried to say it to her and she cried.
Oh,
did I cry?
Oh,
yeah.
I
felt so bad. I was like, you look great.
And then I felt so bad for calling her Fatty when she was like,
but I didn't mind. It was funny.
But you realise things in a different way when you become pregnant.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, actually, maybe I shouldn't have said.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
When you hear the comments about, you're really big,
yeah,
or you must be due soon, like all of those comments.
Yeah,
you realise
so many comments that you make when you're not pregnant, you think are fine, and then when you are pregnant, you're like, I would never say that again, or why would I say that, and things like that. So sorry if I've ever, you know, offended everyone. I'm really sorry. I'm learning. But yeah, so we didn't find out it was a boy or girl, so I didn't know. But you know, everyone has their theories of how the baby's carrying and stuff. But I was convinced I was having a boy. I don't know why, because it wasn't a difficult pregnancy, and they do say that usually with a girl it's like a much harder pregnancy. But I wasn't sick or anything like that, so I was like, it must be a boy. It's going to be a boy. So I worked up till the baby came. I did get very swollen towards the end. So I'd say in my 8th month, did I even make it that far? In my 7th month, I started to swell up.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know, normal pregnancy. I was still having my checkups. Everything was fine. My blood pressure was okay. But there was this one particular week where I was just so tired. My feet at this point only like one. So there's these shoes that me and my sister call Kambu shoes, which is a Ghanaian term for like big bulky shoes, but they were literally the only shoes that my swollen feet could fit in because they were so swollen, nothing else fit. So these trainers. And so I literally was wearing that. I remember a colleague making comments about, oh, well, you got interesting shoes. I'm like, if you knew what my feet looked like, you wouldn't be saying this right now. Again, it was a male colleague too. Anyway. But so this week I was swollen. I was exhausted. I said to my manager, this baby's coming this week. Like, I know it. Like, I can feel my body's changed and it's not the same. This baby's coming. Similar to you, because I'd read all the books and everything, I was like, I'm ready. Like, I'd done hypnobirthing. I'd done, like, I knew everything in my head, I knew everything about labour. I was like, I'm ready for this. So I said to my manager.
And do you remember you said to me, if Rachel can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, Rachel's pain threshold's lower than mine. So I was like, she can do this, I can do it
such
too.
a baby.
But so I said to my manager, I won't be here next week. I did my handover notes, and this was a month and a half before, or I think I was 36 weeks or 35 weeks, sorry. So this was 6. I can't do math. 5 weeks. 5 weeks.
Yeah,
Thank you. Before the baby was due. So I was supposed to work up until my due date. So my manager was like, but you've got another month. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, I can feel this. So when I left on the Friday, I was like, I'm not going to see you on Monday. I even had called my midwife because I had an appointment the week after. But I said, I think I need to come and see you this week. And she managed to schedule me in for Saturday morning. So I was like, cool. So Saturday morning, went to the hospital and got the usual checks. They check your urine, they check your blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. She checks my urine. Oh, you know that. Oh.
Did every birth story involve
I think every birthday must have that.
No one wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear this. Oh. So she looks at me and she said, oh, are you feeling okay? I'm like, well, I'm swollen, I'm tired. I'm like, I think the baby's coming, that's why I'm here. But, I thought they were just going to say, yeah, the baby's coming, go and rest. You're going to be go into labour, whatever. Yeah. She was like, hold on a sec. I'm just going to check your blood pressure. Check my blood pressure. I'm just going to go and get another midwife. I'm going to go get another midwife.
Second opinion.
I understand why they do this,
absolutely.
but it doesn't help.
It
the
doesn't
woman
help the
in
nerves
the moment and the
not
nerves.
panic you,
Yeah.
but
No,
it
actually,
panics you.
you're
Having more of them
panicking.
in the room
I'd
as well,
rather
yeah.
exactly you just say, you know what, I've got a bit of a concern. I'm going to get someone else in here and just keep it be straight up about it. But anyway, she got the other midwife. She also checked my blood pressure, checked my urine, and she said there's protein in your urine. We're going to have to keep you in, monitor you. Your blood pressure's really high. And then we'll go from there. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I have to add, I hadn't got my eyelashes done, I hadn't got my nails done, hadn't got my hair done. I was planning to do all those things in the next weeks to come. That evening, it was my cousin's 30th birthday. I had plans. I was like, I was going to go get my nails done after this. What are you talking about? I'm going to have to say it.
We were meant to meet in the
I know. I was like, we were meant to get our nails done. So my dad, bless him, had dropped me to the hospital. So he was just waiting because obviously we just thought we was going to be in and out. So I called him and I'm like, they said I need to stay a bit, need to check my blood pressure. And he was like, okay, I'll come sit with you and we'll see what happens. And he came in, but parking in the hospital is so expensive.
Yes.
So after I'd been there for 2 hours, my blood pressure was not going down. They gave me some medication to try and get it down. And so when they realised that it wasn't going down naturally, and when you go into hospital, I feel like it's such a stressful situation anyway. Yeah. So naturally your blood pressure is going to be a bit high, but mine was 170 high. So they were really concerned. So the medication wasn't working, so they're like, we're going to have to give you a drip to try and get your blood pressure down. And when they give you a drip, they have to admit you. So I was like, I'm not going anywhere. So I called my husband and I was like, well, I think you need to come, better bring the bags just in case, don't know what's going to happen. My dad went home. And I must say, I was freaking out. This was not how I'd pictured it. I remember messaging you and some of my friends and saying this is not what I thought was going to happen. And obviously now I'm freaking out. My blood pressure's not going to go down, is it?
Yes, exactly.
And so then I'm really worried. I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't even know about blood pressure kind of conditions. I know they ask questions and they check your blood pressure to make sure, but I wasn't 100% sure about what the risks were, what was going to happen. So I asked one of the midwives and she started telling me about preeclampsia. And she was letting me know, when your blood pressure's high and you're swollen, those are the common signs of preeclampsia. So what do? Google.
Oh, Google, your worst enemy.
Sitting there on Google, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? Not knowing not understanding. So anyway, I get the drip. That doesn't get the blood pressure down. They're obviously very concerned because my blood pressure is still high. My husband comes, my mum comes, bless her. My mum threatens the doctors to make sure I get the best possible care because, she loves her daughter and I love my mum. She was like, make sure you guys know what you're doing.
She's a warrior.
She is a warrior. But it was nice, obviously, to have my mum there for a bit. So then it's about 6 p.m. I've started to get some really intense pain. So bearing in mind, all day I hadn't been in any pain. I'm swelling, my blood pressure's high, but I'm not in any pain. At 6 p.m, I literally start feeling some pains in my stomach. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'm hungry. And I was like, I don't know what this is. This is weird. And then it just goes to it just went from 0 to 100. Like I went from like mild no pain to like intense pain. Like my stomach felt like it was on fire, like it was going to be ripped apart, like really, really painful. Sorry if that's too graphic. But so I tell the midwives, they do a check, and then they're like, oh, I had to also have a catheter because I was on the drip, so they have to monitor your urine. So, which I also tried to fight everything, by the way, guys. I was like, I don't want the meds, I don't want the drip, I don't want the catheter. But in the end, I had to. But I was like, you just need to explain things to you, and I think that if that's where they kind of fall short as well, they don't explain why you need these things. Because if I understood, then then maybe I would have not have fought as hard. But when I had an amazing midwife who helped and sat down and taught me what I needed to know. So anyway, I thought the catheter had come out and I was like, oh, I've wet myself and I've got these intense belly pains. And they're like, oh, okay, let's check. Hadn't wet myself. I was bleeding and my placenta had detached. So I won't go into all the details, but it was very, 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 very painful. But it was very quick. They had to have an emergency C-section. They got the baby out very quickly. And I remember they kept saying, the baby's here. The baby's doing well. The baby's breathing. I'm like, what is the baby? Like, is the baby a girl or boy? 'Cause I had no idea. And then they were like, oh, it's a girl. I was like, oh, was not ready for that. I thought it was a boy. But she was gorgeous. They showed me her. But of course, because she was born, she wasn't breathing straight away. So she had to go to NICU. So they monitored her breathing. But she was a champion. She was only on the oxygen for like an hour. And then she was breathing totally fine. And we were reunited the next morning. So yeah, similar to you, I had an emergency C-section and the pain that comes with that. And I actually think it's more of a shock to the body when you have an emergency C-section and the pain that comes with it. And it's tough. And I remember because they did numb me, but because it was an emergency, they didn't have time. They didn't have time to wait. So I could feel the tugging at first when they were trying to get that baby out. Yeah. I do think it was like a little bit comical. My husband was like, it wasn't funny at all. Bless him. He was so afraid, of course. He's standing there like watching it. So traumatic for him. But in like doctor shows, so like I love Grey's Anatomy, so I'll say Grey's Anatomy, when everything goes crazy, like an alarm went off and then suddenly they're wheeling my bed and then knocking my foot on the door because they're trying to get me to theatre so quickly. So when I think about it, I'm like, this is hilarious. It's just like boom, boom, boom. But praise God, we're all okay. I do think that hypnobirthing really helped me because even in that moment, I was like, if I breathe, I'm going to survive. Keep breathing. Remember your breathing tactics. Keep breathing. You're going to be okay. And there was a midwife squeezing my hand and she was like, you're doing so well. Why aren't you screaming? Because it's like the most intense pain you can actually go through in labour to have your placenta erupt. And she was like, you're doing so well. And I was like, I just got to keep breathing. I'm like, don't talk to me. I need to breathe. And I just remember if I breathe through this pain, it's going to be fine. Yeah. And then obviously then you have the post birth and you have to wait for your milk to come in and then you're trying to bond with the baby and you've got this, you can't move for ages because you've got the C-section, you can't lift anything. I found not driving hard. I'm an autonomous woman and I was like, someone's going to drive me around for the next 6 weeks. What? And then the process is all of healing your body and also dealing with this or living with this and let you just take this baby home and you're like, what am I going to do with this little tiny, and she was only 5 pounds. She was tiny. God, praise God, my mum was around, my mother-in-law was around. I was like, I was even scared to bath the baby because she was so tiny. But it was a scary experience, but I think it was also positive. And I think that I actually had amazing care, and so I think that really helped me have a positive, scary experience if that's possible. So that's how my daughter came into this world, and she is very dramatic, I must say. Like her dramatic entry, like I think it matches their personality. You were saying, like she is very dramatic, and she had a dramatic entry into the world. So there we go.
I love her drama. But I love how you were saying that. At that appointment, you just felt that something wasn't quite right. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, listen to your body.
Listened to your body and you knew something. And then at 6 p.m, you started to feel that pain. And that's crazy.
And so my manager was like, oh, you were right. I'm like, yes, I was right.
I know my body. But then there's
also,
also, when you were saying about the midwife that sat with you and kind of educated you, I feel like even when they made me sign the papers for my C-section, I didn't know at that time that you can actually say no. Yeah. Because you can push out a breech baby. Yeah. But because I didn't know that, obviously, like I said, I'd prepared in a different way. I hadn't prepared all of the, I didn't understand that it's your choice. So when you were saying you said no to the catheter, you said you fought things. Yeah. my first labour, I was just like signing, yes. Whatever you say, I have to do. But actually, you don't.
It was fortunate that I'd been at other births, so I kind of knew you need to speak up for yourself. Absolutely. You need to make sure you understand what you're being told, and you're not just going to blindly say yes to things. And I understand why people do it, because they're medical professionals.
Absolutely.
So you think, they're there for me. They know what they're talking about, so I'm going to listen to them, which is totally fine. But I think I needed to feel confident in my decision, that it was my decision, and I know what they're doing to my body. And of course, in the end, once I understood what they were doing, I was like, okay, there's no other way. I just want us to be safe.
And so understanding,
which is what everyone wants. But also, you have different perspectives, isn't it? Because you're thinking about the delivery, but you're also thinking about baby afterwards. And a lot of the time you've got midwives who've seen loads of births go smoothly, and they're thinking about what's going to be most straightforward, what's going to be like the lowest level of intervention and risk. Whereas the doctors, they're called in to save lives, which means that birth becomes very medicalised, because they're thinking, you could die, the baby could die, I need to save the lives here. When you have that level of intervention and no one's life is at risk, that can cause issues, and it invariably does. Like, there's so much data on this. What's crazy is before I had my daughter, I just finished a master's in medical anthropology, and one of the things I looked at was the medicalisation of birth, and I still felt like I couldn't speak up, right? And I was terrified because I'd read about, you know, the disparities in healthcare outcomes for Black women. At that point, you were 5 times more likely to die in childbirth. That's just because you were Black. This is when they've levelled out everything else, like pre-existing factors, age, weight, all of that stuff. Just the colour of your skin. And I'm there like, oh no, what's going to happen? Freaking out, thinking I'm going to die and my baby's going to be alone. So it was hard to speak up. And even after the baby, she went to NICU for a little bit. She had some kind of like just in case antibiotics. Didn't know that with prophylactics you can ask for a blood culture first. You can kind of wait. But I think I probably would have said just give her the antibiotics just in case, to be fair. She had a tongue tie. We had some breastfeeding issues, and someone took my baby and just gave her a bottle of formula without even really
me too. No one asked us.
And it was so different, because with my son I was like, he's going to be exclusively breastfed, and he didn't. I think I tried to give him a bowl of like express breast milk around like 6 months, and he just laughed. He just said no. So he only had breast milk directly from the. I think he eventually,
this little boy here.
Exactly. It was a bit earlier actually, because he did. Because now I'm remembering, because I was crazy and took him to LA when he was like 3 months old, and he had to have bottles there, but he just wouldn't finish the milk, and I was so upset because it took me like hours to pump this small bottle, and then
my god,
it would be returned to me
liquid gold, wasted, constantly,
and they would just spit it out and it just spoils. Anyway, that aside, my point, which was like all the way down there, is advocating for yourself is hard. In pregnancy, you know, during the birth, and then also after that postpartum period. They call it the 4th trimester for a reason. It's so intense. And there's so much space for like medical intervention, some of it which is brilliant, and like I'm so grateful we have an NHS, some of it which is unnecessary and it needs reform, you know. I could go on about this, but I'm going to stop, and we're going to do some quick fire questions.
Woo!
Yes.
Right, so the first question is, what is your favourite thing about being a mum? Let's go Amma first.
Yes.
Favourite thing? There's so many. I love it all. No, I'm joking. I do love it mostly. But my favourite thing is, do you know what? It's seeing these little humans become people.
Oh my gosh, I was going to say the same thing.
But I just think it's an incredible thing to see how like they've been created, and it just helps me connect a lot with God and see how God is there and how He's made these. Like the way they just go from this to like toddlers to children, the things that they learn, the way their brains develop, like every day is so different. Like I have a 4-year-old, and even every day with her is so different. With the baby, every day is so different. And I just think it's incredible to see. It's a privilege to actually be a part of this journey, to witness them growing in this way. So I love that.
Beautiful. Right, Kamilah?
Why don't you go since
I have the same answer. Okay, I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to say it's the sound of their laughter. It's like my favourite thing. Like from the babies. At the moment, my twins, find it hilarious to throw themselves on the floor and then
I've
roll
seen
about
this.
and laugh. Yeah.
I'm always like, no,
Everyone is so
Which is like,
concerned and they
fine.
do it all over the place. And then one does it and the other looks and just nods and starts doing it. And it's so cute. And just the laughter. Then I'm laughing and we look insane. Because why am I watching my babies throw themselves on the floor and laugh? But I think also because they enjoy the sensation and then they like the other one's laughing. They like that I'm laughing.
Yeah.
And with my older two, like my 7-year-old, she has found her humour. In fact, my sister was saying to me the other day, how did this happen so early? My sister used to tell the driest jokes, the deadest stories, to the point where we shared a room and I used to say to her, I can't sleep, can you tell me one of your stories? Which is so shady and rude. But
sounds like me and my sister.
They
I
would
need
try. Just tell me your dad's story so I can go to sleep. And then suddenly she became funny. And now she's probably the funniest out of like my siblings. And we're like, when did it? She's like, yeah, the dry sibling became witty. But that happened like when she was a teenager.
Yeah.
Whereas my 7-year-old, she's fast becoming the funniest one in the house. She's just her type. She's witty. She's just, the timing is on point. She just has these little like, she notices things about the world and comes out with these little satirical comments. Yeah. She's hilarious. Yeah. It's so funny. And then my son is just, he's just mad and it's so wonderful. But like his laugh, it's just the cutest thing. For some reason, his laugh and one of my twins' laughs and their cries sound the same. So sometimes I'll be like, we live across like 3 floors. Sometimes I'll be upstairs and I hear them downstairs and I'm like, oh, who's laughing? Which one? And then I have to wait to see if there's talking or babbling. And it's like, okay, it's my boy. But yeah, I love the sound of their laughter. Like it fills the house and it just makes me happy.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm going to go for that. The sound of their laughter. Beautiful.
That is so cute, isn't it?
Wonderful. Yeah. And I like making them laugh.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
For me, I feel like the thing I love most about mothering is watching my children experience things. Like if we go on holiday, and it's funny because me and my husband was talking about this the other day. The part of holiday that we love the most is watching the children experience a different culture, watching them experience the weather, watching them. Like I've always been an advocate for experience and exposure. Like I will take my children to lavender fields just because of the smell and the colours, or we are that family that like I've allowed my children to splash in puddles. I know that some of my friends come
all do.
That's
what
wellies are for.
I've got wellies. Wellies,
but like we will go out just
messy,
to splash. Like we'll go out. Yeah, exactly. We'll go out just to splash. We'll, you know, like we do things like we'll go for walks in the woods, and I just love watching them experience all of these, just the world, like, and all it has to offer them, and just watching them grab hold of bits and I love that. I just
You're
love
so
that.
good at giving them different experiences as well.
Yeah,
like,
and the thing is, they don't have to cost money. Like they don't have to be, you know, halfway across the world to let them experience something. It's just, you know, on your doorstep and stories in the park. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, okay. Quick fire question number 2.
Next question.
So the next question is, what is the best piece of parenting advice you've received?
Ooh. I can go first.
Go for it.
Okay, because I don't want you guys to steal
like, let me say mine.
oh no, I've forgotten it. Oh yeah. So I think it. Oh no.
Have you forgotten?
Yeah, I've forgotten.
Baby brain.
And I don't want to say your one.
You're gonna say mine.
Okay, you go first.
We'll do Kamilah first.
Okay, now you guys are making me forget mine. Okay, so the best piece of parenting advice I have got, and it's kind of like life advice as well. Yeah. It's the phrase that goes, all things will pass, or this time will pass. And I think that is so important in parenting, because we can get so caught up in the moments where we're getting sleepless nights, or your baby won't allow you to be on your own. They want to be on your hip constantly, or
like
they
now.
need or they need you to hold their hand to fall asleep, or things like that. Those times will pass, and it's, for me, it's like holding on to those times, because everything is going to be a last eventually. Like, there will be a last time when my child wants me to hold their hand to put them to sleep. There will be a last time where she wants me to hold her while I'm cooking. There will be a last time when she's like, Mummy, look, Mummy, watch, Mummy. And for me, that's like, I am not ready for any of those things to be my last. So all the things that are hard will pass, but all the things that are good will pass as well. And you just have to embrace and hang on to everything, because at some point these children, like you were talking about with the development and how quick they can grow from, like in an instant they will be big children that don't want to be in your bed anymore, don't want to watch movies with you, and don't want to and it makes me so emotional to think about it, because the birth story I was telling is about my 7-year-old, and the way she is growing is just insane. I match all 3 of my girls. My 7-year-old doesn't want to match anymore, and that is really stressful for me.
That's quite sad.
It's stressful. She's like, I don't want to match with them anymore. I'm not baby, and I'm like, please match. I need this. So for me, it is definitely knowing that everything will pass, and you just have to cling on to it and make the most of it and just cherish it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Have you remembered yours, or should I go?
Yeah, I can go. Mine's a bit of a weird one. I think that it's things will be hard.
Yeah.
And things will change. I think people aren't prepared for a lot of the change that comes with motherhood. It's constant change, and whether that's your friendships, whether that's in your career, whether that's in your marriage, everything will change. But you kind of just have to go with it and talk about it and talk to people about it. Mum Dem are here for you.
We're here for you. I know, it's
that's another great thing when they look at you. It's so beautiful. I love you too, bub. But yeah, even though things will be hard, you just talk, be open about it, talk about it. Just do what you need to do. Last night I left, when I got home to sleep, I went in my car, I drove to Shake, got an Oreo milkshake. I read my book in the car for 2 hours, and it was the best thing of my day. It was a hard day yesterday, but even though things are hard, like you said, it's only a season. So that's mine.
I love what you said though about the change. I think that is so important to take on, because it's like you said, everything does change when you have a child, and I think some people think that children are going to come and slot into the lifestyle they have. No. It's massive.
Your lifestyle will change.
Yeah, your lifestyle will change to sort of fit in with the child.
And that's okay. I always think we see things on socials about how don't let your baby change you, or this, that, and the other.
Baby will change.
Your baby,
absolutely.
and
your
that's
body
totally
usually a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? And or people saying, no, my lifestyle, I'm gonna you can still 100% do things. We travel with our kids. We live our best life with our kids. It's not when I was
with our children.
Right? Literally. But it's not when we were 21. Yeah, it's different, but it's fine.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so my first thought was the same as yours.
Yeah.
It was when we were talking through questions, I thought of what my brother-in-law said, which is everything is a phase.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he'd be shocked that it had such an impact on me, because we were talking about sleep, we were talking about food, and he was just at that point having a difficult time with one of my nieces and nephews, and just said, it's a phase, it changes. Good sleep is a phase, bad sleep is a phase. And that was really helpful. And I say that to everyone when they're like, oh, it's so hard. I'm like, it's just a phase. It will pass. And even when it's good, I'm like, enjoy this phase, because it will change.
Exactly.
Because I think otherwise you feel like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Should I be sleep training? Should I be doing this? Am I doing the food right? And it's coming from someone who has 4 kids and twins, you can do the exact same thing, and there will be a different outcome because the kids are different. Even with my twins, sometimes I'll cook food. One of them loves it, can't get enough. The other throws it at me. How dare you give me this disgusting food?
Dare you?
And the other one's give me more. Take that bit that's on mummy's top. So with all these things, it's a phase. And that's really helpful. I thought of something else, which I forgot now, because, my bladder's not what it was. We'll be wrapping up our quick fire soon. But honestly, it's I think that with the shift in the seasons, and you think you're in the swing of things, everything's going well, and then there's another change, it can make you question yourself. But it's really good to remember, this too shall pass. I remember the other thing, which is similar. Okay, so this is with tantrums, because it's so intense, the tantruming phase of kids. With my twins, it's just started, and with my son, it's just finishing. So it's I had a break, and now we're back into it.
1 day break.
But the twins' tantrums are really cute and funny, because they throw themselves on the floor, and they're like it looks like a little dance, but it's really cute. But someone said to me, you only have to outlast them for 1 second.
Yeah.
Because when they're tantruming, I want to give in. I want to discipline them. I want actually what they need when they're throwing a tantrum is emotional regulation, and they can't do it for themselves yet. So they need you to regulate yourself. It's crazy how much a 2 or 3 year old screaming can trigger you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is a child. When you see other people's kids, it's like, oh, it's not that deep. When it's your own, like the shame, the mum guilt, the compassion for your child, but you don't know what to do with it, and you try all the things, and it's like, I know that if I bribe them or if I threaten them, it's not going to go well, but I just need it to end.
Yeah.
And you start to feel like you're crazy. And I know every mum goes through this.
Absolutely.
What's helpful to me was to remember, okay, I need to regulate my emotions, teach my kid to regulate their emotions, but I only need to survive this explosion, because that's what it is. It's an emotional explosion. I only need to survive it for 1 second more than a 3-year-old. If I at my big grown age cannot survive for 1 second more than a 3-year-old, and it counts for so many things. Like if they refuse to sleep, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's the middle of the night. Why are you asking to watch a film? No, you cannot watch a film.
Or the 12th cup of water.
12th cup of water. And then let's not even go into what that leads to. But then it's like, well, actually, I only need to cope with this for 1 second more than you. And there's so many times where it's like, I'm about to give in, I'm about to crumble and come up with some ridiculous thing. And then it's like, oh, okay. Like, we're sitting on the naughty step. He's fighting it, or she's fighting it. And then it's like, oh you okay, baby? Little cutie. But yeah, it's just 1 second more, which we can all cope with.
We can.
We're big grown adults. 1 second
Should
more.
be able to do that.
We can do it, guys.
For sure.
That's great.
Cool. Final quick fire question.
Oh, bless
That
you.
was the cutest sneeze
Oh,
I've
so
heard in my
cute.
life.
Bless you. Cutie. Oh, now you're getting smiles.
Are you smiling? Are you smiling? Yeah. Okay, so the final quick fire question, which it might not end up having quick responses. I'll try to make mine quick. What is it like for Mum Dem? We'll start with you. In education, what's it really like?
What is it really like for Mum Dem in education? It can be very overstimulating. I'm going to start with that. Can you imagine? So I'm a teacher, if you don't know. I've been doing it for some years now. I have 3 children. Can you imagine going to school, going to work, teaching a class of 25 to 30, in which you have to practice so much patience, so much resistance, so much you're constantly needed by all of these children. And I feel like in today's cohorts, I'm just going to be very real. There's quite a lot of special educational needs that sometimes go unnoticed, like in home life, but at school it's quite evident that this child needs a little bit of extra support in this, or this child needs a little bit of extra support in this. It's really difficult to be that person for 25 to 30 children and then come home after being drained, because remember, it's not just the educational side that you have to deal with at work. There's the dramas in the playground that the children come in, like, I've had an argument with this person and this person. You have to deal with, like, sometimes emotional and physical trauma. Like, some of them might have had stuff happen at home. Some of them, there's safeguarding stuff. There's so much going on that you have to be a counsellor, a mother, you're a nurturer, you're making sure they're eating their lunch, sometimes doing a bit of first aid. You have to be professional, you have to regulate yourself. There's so much
politics with the
there's
adults.
politics.
That's why I left
with that.
education.
I'm telling you. And then you come home and you have to then do that again for your own children. I think being a mum has made me a better teacher. Like 100%. But I think being a teacher makes it hard sometimes to be a mum.
Wow, that's intense.
It is, and the thing is, teaching is I love teaching so much, so it breaks my heart to say that. It actually breaks my heart, because
it's real though.
it is real, because coming home sometimes after a day when I am so drained, and then my children need the patience I've just given to 25 children, not even my children, can I just say, I love them, but they're not my children. Then I've then got to exercise that same patience at home. It is so exhausting. And then to deal with bedtime and to deal with it can be a lot. And my husband sometimes works late, so there's times where he's not home until maybe 10, 11, 12 o'clock. So I've done bedtime on my own after being at work all day with the children. Then I come home. It can be a lot. So I think overstimulating is one of the words, because it can be, it's a lot. But then also I think it's very rewarding at times, because a lot of stuff I take from school as well, and I can bring home. So in like, you guys know, I love doing the education stuff with my children at home. So a lot of that comes from stuff I've got at school as well.
I love doing your activities with my son.
Yeah, I love the pictures that you send. So yeah, so rewarding but overwhelming, overstimulating sometimes. Yeah, it can. I'm gonna leave it there because we've got so many more episodes to come, and we will get into this.
We'll have an
Believe
episode
me,
just about
teachers
this.
out there, we're gonna get into this.
Honestly.
But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Are you ready, or do you want me to go?
so
Okay,
let me
I'll go.
ask you the question.
Go for it.
What's it like for Mum Dem? What's it really like for Mum Dem in entrepreneurship?
Girl, I'm actually going to say lonely, which it surprises
Okay.
me that word came into my head.
Yeah.
There's not that many mums in the startup world.
Yeah.
Like, it's increasing since I had my first child, but I think, especially like, I live in London, right? The
Yeah.
London startup scene, it's not very like inclusive for parents.
Okay.
There'll be quite a few dads,
Yeah.
but their wives or partners are with the baby somewhere else, you know. I used to take my daughter to startup stuff because I just had to work. The business was quite early on, so I went back to work when she was maybe like 3 months.
Yeah.
And she was either tied on my back in business meetings with me, or in the carrier in meetings with me, and like coming to events. I like did pictures and talks like whilst breastfeeding her.
Yeah.
And people were so nice about it and very like, you know, like she was such a cute baby. They gave her lots of attention. It's the same with my son. But sometimes I would just be like, I need to talk to someone about this. I need advice. And it would be like, I need advice for a work thing that impacts on my home life, or I need advice on a home life thing that will have an impact on the startup. And I don't know who to talk to because I can't think of other mums who are in a similar space with a baby. So that's why I started just kind of like, I had like a private Instagram and I started just like posting like reality, just doing stories on the go. And I got like all this interaction from people who were like, do you know what? I've been in my startup for X amount of time. I want to have a baby, but I've been scared too. And it's been so beautiful to see some of those women have kids after like the amount of times like I've like, someone's like, do you want to grab a drink? And I'm like, what do they want to talk about? Thinking it'll be some business collab.
Yeah.
They want to know about my babies. That's happened so many times. And it's been so beautiful then some of them seeing them then become parents.
Yeah.
And I can see how they pay it forward because I see them like sharing content of like just reality so people can picture it, or I see them like supporting others. So it's nice seeing that change in the scene. I think there's still more to be done. I think it's maybe a little bit better in the US. When I was like out in LA for work, I felt like there was just a bit more. I met like other mums in a similar space. But yeah, I found it really, really lonely with my first child. And now I feel like I've found myself a bit more. I feel like I'm excited about like the kind of startup projects I'm working on, plural because I'm mad. Different type of mad though, more measured insanity now. And for me, the priority is like, and it always has been my kids, whether it was one or like now there's 4. But it's very much, okay, how can I build my life around their needs, knowing those needs are going to change, but I can't just be shifting my entire life every 5 seconds. But with startups, you kind of can. So that's what I love about entrepreneurship. I feel like there's so much room for flexibility. It's not like, because my husband's a teacher, right? He has to be in the school at particular times. Like he's a senior leader, like they need him. He can't always just pop out. Most days he doesn't even get a lunch break. And it can be that way with startups, but a lot of it is like pressure from yourself, right? So through like therapy and coaching and stuff, I've gotten to a point where it's like, okay, I'm not putting needless pressure on myself. The business will grow at the rate the business grows, and that's okay because my kids are growing at their own different rate, and that is what has to set the pace. So I think that in entrepreneurship, I think the Mum Dem need to know that they can set the pace. You can ignore the hype because there's so much hype, and you can set your own pace. And there's actually space for that in entrepreneurship, which is brilliant, which is why I think it's so great for mums.
I like that.
So, Amma, what's it really like for Mum Dem in law?
It's tiring, but in the sense that your time is so strange. And I think that's the same in most careers. But I think in law, you can kind of just work all kind of hours. And switching, especially when you work from home and then having to switch off. I'm not going to lie, my daughter has spent a lot of time in front of the TV whilst I deal with urgent court cases, which are actually, time boxed and have to be dealt with. And And I'm just like, she's going to be okay. I hope she's going to be okay.
You spend so much time doing activities outside of her. Like,
yeah, thanks. But it is.
But the mum guilt is real.
The mum guilt is real. And I think that just being a lawyer can be so time consuming. And I do with child protection cases, and so it's really difficult, and it's emotionally challenging. And then, like you were saying about you have to try and switch off from one and then move into the next role. And I think that's what I found the hardest, is that movement from being a lawyer to being a mother. And then, like, you just don't get to switch off, and then they go to sleep, and then you conk out, and then you start all over again. And so I think just that time pressure on you is exhausting. But you know, you take holidays, and that's fun. And I'm sure there's lots of other, you know, because law is such a vast space, and there's so many different areas of law, and so many different ways it impacts people, and so I'm sure lots of people have different feedback on how it will affect them as well. So I look forward to hearing that. But it's definitely time constraining.
Thank you. Well, we have chatted, we have talked, and the talk has been real.
Oh yeah.
Real. So we hope you enjoyed our pilot episode. You can let us know what you want to hear from us next time. We've got some really cool guests lined up from all of these fields. Guests in education. We've got startup guests. We've got... Why was I going to say medical guests? What does that even mean? We have guests who are doctors. Yes. And we will find whatever kind of guests you want. So let us know what you want to see, what you want to hear, because the Mum Dem are here for you.
We're here for you. This has been the Mum Dem podcast with
Amma,
Kamilah,
and Rachel.
Join us next time for more real talk.
The Mum Dem are there for you.
Boop, 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 boop.